Hi, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Tap HR podcast and also now YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by Jimi Wall. Jimi is Managing Director of Upwrd, who are a leadership development and career development company. And today we're going to be talking about getting kind of career clarity and also how that links to situations like redundancy. So Jimi, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me, Trish.
You are more than welcome. So tell us exactly what getting career clarity is and how that links to things like redundancy.
Yeah, so as you touched on, our business Upwrd is a career development and leadership development business. So what that means in reality is that we have a network of coaches and workshop facilitators who provide services around career clarity as well as leadership development. But specifically for the topic we're discussing today, we help individual professionals and leaders who are often facing a point of transition in their professional life. So it could be that they're seeking a promotion. It could be that they're just not happy with where they're at and they're at kind of a transition point mentally. Or as you touched on, often it's a case where some of our clients are facing redundancy. So we'll be brought in by an HR services organization or by the organization employer themselves to help the individuals by supporting them with some coaching or some workshops to help them get clarity on what they want their career to look like next in the face of that redundancy. So just to help them weigh up do something similar to what they've already been doing, but really the value is in helping them get clarity on maybe that little niggle they've had in the or the itch that they want to scratch of exploring a new career direction, which redundancy can be a difficult time, but also the optimistic side says it's a great time to consider your next career steps.
And what made you want to offer this service? So, one of the questions I was going to ask is how is it different to something like traditional outplacement services? But I'm also really interested in what made you want to provide this service to people.
Yeah, I mean, me and the business are very, very passionate about ensuring that everyone does work they love. I fiercely believe that everyone deserves to do work that they love.
Mhm.
Um, I guess the business has come from me being a bit of a wounded healer in the sense that I didn't enjoy what I was doing for a while, for quite a long time. It led to anxiety and depression of trying to be someone that I wasn't, square peg round hole, I suppose. Successful in by some criteria of success, monetary and progression up a ladder, but never really felt at home. So I made a pivot personally to become a professional coach initially, and I've been coaching leaders and professionals to help them lead better or lead themselves better, lead others better, lead themselves better. Um, and through the reason for doing that is just to ensure, as I said earlier, that everyone deserves to do work that they love.
Mm.
Now, how it differs, I guess, from outplacement career clarity work that we do is it's not so much different. It's more a value added service to outplacement services. So typically in an outplacement service organization, the services they will offer will be things like CV writing, cover letter assistance, how to search job boards for those who are, especially those who maybe haven't looked for jobs in a while when they face redundancy. Um, but the career clarity stuff comes in for those professionals, as I say, who really are at a point where they're thinking, actually, do you know what? Now's a good time to prioritize me and to lead myself a little bit better than I have been doing. So yeah, hopefully that made some sense.
Perfect sense. And how does it work? So, if a company or kind of an individual comes to you wanting some career clarity coaching, how does it work, and what does that kind of look and feel like for people?
It's different every time. So let's say if an individual comes to me, we generally will match them with a coach, either myself or one of our partner coaches, who is suitable for that individual, because the idea of coaching really is that it's born out of a positive rapport-led relationship. So you know, you really need to make sure that the relationship and the chemistry between the coach and the client is strong. So it starts with initial meetings for the coach and client to share what the objectives of the coaching will be. Is it that that individual absolutely wants to be in a new job, in a new career, and they're certain about that? The next person might just want to explore and be curious about what could be possible. So almost not quite as far down the line as that first one. Sometimes we do have individuals who want us to hold them to account because they identify that they struggle with things like time management and prioritization and organization. So actually, although they may not want a huge career change in the grander sense, they might want to partner with the coach to hold them to account if they're on a, you know, maybe they've got a time constraint of when they need to get paid work again. So all of those relationships start with a really important chemistry session to design what the relationship's going to look like between in terms of length of time and the outcomes that the individual wants to get from that coaching. On the organizational side, it can vary really. It depends on the solutions that the organization has budget for and time for during that redundancy process. But typically, we as an organization will meet with, let's say, the employers who are having to unfortunately lay people off, and we'll understand what that time frame looks like, what their reason for bringing the coaching is from an organizational perspective, and then we might just simply go into one-to-one coaching without any workshops. You know, it might just be that the organization wants to provide one-to-one coaching that is entirely confidential between a coach and each individual employee that's going through redundancy. So on the business side, it is really a case by case.
And what kind of common barriers do you find people come up against when they're needing that kind of career clarity? What things are typically stopping people from kind of taking that kind of leap?
I think fear of the unknown, fear of failure, imposter syndrome, are all very common topics and obstacles that we and my team work with clients, individuals, to overcome. So that's if we focus on the individual and what the challenges could be there. You know, there is I guess a comfort zone that people get into, a rhythm of doing the same work, and so it's about working with them to go really deep into what's in their soul a little bit about, do they really want this transition, or do they just want, and what degree of transition are they looking for? Are they looking for a complete career change with a different industry and a different function that they're working in now? Or do they want to keep the function? Let's say they work in HR, they want to stay in HR, but they've been working in sports. Do they now want to go into telecoms, for argument's sake? So there's degrees there. And obstacles on the organization side often are sometimes a lack of awareness that that they can provide a service of career clarity to those that they're having to let go. Often they think they just need to help them tick the boxes of the basics of, we'll help you write a CV, we'll give you a good reference, and off you go. But I guess the more advanced, I was going to say the better employers value their people, are hurt by what's happening of having to let them go, and they want to provide extra value to their people. So they do provide them with career coaching to, rather than just you know, that tick box basic exercise. Another obstacle can be cost. They do, you know, sometimes they'll say, well, we're having to get rid of these people because we can't afford them, you know, but actually the savings on the salary over 6 to 12 months are absolutely nothing in comparison to bringing in some one-to-one support in more of the short term.
And typically, how long does coaching last? Is there kind of a fixed period of time, or is it kind of quite fluid depending on who you're working with?
Yeah, so obviously on one hand we do workshops where we might just pick a topic and that's relevant. So they tend to be 1 hour up to 3 hours, virtual or face to face. But the coaching side that you asked about really depends on the individual. And also the period of time that it's looking like those redundancies might go over. Now, typically for career clarity stuff, so let's say it's someone who is in a position where they absolutely want to try something completely different to what they've done, but they don't know where to start. We would say probably you'd be looking at around working with a coach for about 12 hours in total, and those hours can be spread according to the coach and the client's availability. So some individuals might want to work once a week for an hour for 12 weeks. Typically, though, we recommend every 2 to 3 weeks as a cadence, because that allows you to have a good in-depth conversation with the client, help them to reflect and think about where they're currently at, come up with an action plan, and then as a coach, you can check in with them in 2 or 3 weeks and see what progress they've made. Now, at the other end of the scale, if you're just looking for kind of a minimum amount of time, a minimum amount of input from the coach, we say about 6 or 7 hours at the more minimum end, where maybe instead of a full transformation, that individual just looking for a shift. Maybe they're being made redundant. They want to do the same thing, but they want to go for a promotion. So they just need help in figuring out what their elevator pitch is, how they can justify their promotion, work with a coach to identify all the good things they've done over the last few years and present that now in interviews. So it's really, really flexible. And on the organization side, it depends how long that organization has, as I say, until unfortunately the layoffs have to leave the door and put the laptop back on the desk. They often do say once they've left, they can have a few months of coaching as well.
Yeah, okay. And I mean, you talked a little bit about where individuals kind of know they want to do something completely different, but there are instances where they don't know what that is. Where do you even begin to start with someone that's in that kind of situation? And kind of how does that kind of initial kind of process of feeling out where that person is work?
Yeah, there is method to the madness, a little bit, I suppose. I mentioned the importance of chemistry, first of all. Real reason for that is to build trust. And the real reason to build trust is to enable the person in front of you, i.e. the individual being coached, the client, to feel that they can open up about some of their vulnerabilities, insecurities, fears, worries. And then it's the coach's job really to begin to explore. Well, we have a 3-phased approach, and the first phase would be about helping the individual to get clarity. And within clarity, we might touch on things like the individual's values, the individual's interests, passions. Purpose is a big word as well. How they view purpose. Is it purpose with a big P, capital P, like they want to make an impact on the world via a purposeful organization, someone like Greenpeace, where purpose is very clear? Or is it purpose with a little p, where they're happy to work within any organization so long as they feel that their purpose could be in the finance team, for instance, doing the accounts and the payroll, that they feel that that purpose is so important to them because they are actively putting money in people's banks to allow them to feed their kids every day.
Every day, hopefully.
People might only feed at the weekend. But so yeah, we'd start with values, interests, and really what we're trying to do is help the individual figure out who they are. Once they know who they are, we can then start to define the kind of work they want to do. So it's who am I? What do I want next? What do I want next? That's kind of what's the environment that I want to work in, and what's the industry? What's the job function? What's the location? Is it hybrid? Is it remote fully? Is it on site. Geography, as I said, is location as well. What's the culture of the organization that I want to work in? Is it a family business that I tend to like? Do I not? Do I want to be in more of a corporate? There's all of that to define. And then I guess after that, once we've worked on that, it's then a case of, okay, let's come up now with a strategy to find those roles. And more often than not, to let you into a secret, it's not applying for jobs on a job board, because lo and behold, your CV says one thing that you've done, and you're looking to go for something else. So we help the individual to identify ways that are authentic to them, whether they're an introvert or an extrovert, to go out and find ways of getting into that new industry. It could be via friends, family, old colleagues, people who've moved on into this industry. Look at the network, look at the little black book of names and addresses that they've got. So my team, I guess, help our clients to think as widely as possible and as optimistically as possible that change is possible.
Amazing. And tell us a little bit more about a success story then. I know you've got hundreds of them because you're awesome at what you do. But tell us a bit more about kind of a success story that will help inspire our watchers and our listeners.
Yeah, I guess on the redundancy theme, actually, I do work with organisations of varying sizes, from regional corporate firms to kind of your Canary Wharf and London City firms. One such was a FTSE 100 bank. I was working with an analyst, a fraud analyst within that bank, who was unfortunately getting laid off. We worked together over a period of it was actually the 12 hours work, which I think we spread every couple of weeks. So it was about 6 months worth of work, where we stripped everything right back to who he was, because he'd lost his identity in his work, thinking he was this risk analyst, this fraud analyst, and that was it, in a big bank and just a number. And to cut a long story short, he's now a conservationist with the National Trust, and does some voluntary work with some capital P purposeful organisations and charities. But we needed to work around his reality of having a family and a mortgage. You know, we're not just saying, as a coach, we don't give any advice on what to do. That's not our place. We just help people unlock in themselves their own potential. So yeah, it wasn't about telling him to go and get that job. It was about helping him by asking him questions that he's been too afraid to ask himself, to find work that would still pay the mortgage and support his kids, but would light him up more and ensure that he loved his work more than he had done. So he took redundancy. Actually came as in quite a bad place of thinking, that's it, career over. And by the end of it, he's completely transformed, and it's brilliant. He's happy, and he's been a better person for it at home as well, which transforming a career is transforming a life. So that's the way I see it. It's all good.
Oh, amazing. And you talked a little bit there about kind of that individual losing their identity. And I think a lot of people can probably identify with that. I know I can. So when I've been in the corporate world, I give, 110%, and everything else kind of falls by the wayside. How do you help people that are in that situation who've kind of lost their identity? You need to kind of find that person and get to their soul, like you said earlier.
Yeah, I think it comes in the nature of coaching, in that I personally, and also me and my team, have an unwavering belief that everyone is amazing deep down, and resourceful and creative and innovative in their own unique way. And just by us as a coach being non-judgmental and completely impartial and hanging on to that belief, it then influences the questions that we ask. If someone's struggling with a concept, maybe like, I couldn't go to a networking event, or I couldn't pick up the phone to someone and just ask them if I could shadow them for a day. It's about, helping them to reframe that worry or concern as, okay, so what would a similar action be that you have successfully achieved in the past, where you have got in touch with someone in any walk of life when they weren't expecting a phone call from you? And how did that go? And more often than not, it'll be, oh yeah, actually it went well. Yeah, they did agree to meet me, or how do you secure a date with someone? It could be it's something like that from personal life. So all we're doing is helping that individual to be self-aware, recognize that it is absolutely possible, and that any worries and fears that they've got are just that. They are obstacles that don't really, really, truly exist other than in the mind. Apart from, in some cases, obviously, you've got to acknowledge people may have financial difficulties and that. So there are realities, but within reason, a lot of what we tell ourselves isn't possible is possible. I can say, for one, I didn't think I'd be sat here as managing director of a career and leadership development company when I was working as a new business director a number of years ago, and feeling that that was me in my box. So yeah, that would be my perspective on that.
Fabulous stuff. So how can people go about getting in contact with you if they want to use your services? What's the best way to get in touch?
Well, our website is currently being built because I was an individual coach on my own as an individual sole trader, I suppose, for the last 18 months, but have gradually built this network up now of amazing people. So our website is currently being built. So there's only a landing page, which is upwrd.co.uk, and that's Upward without an A, so upwrd.co.uk. But the best way to get hold of me directly is via LinkedIn. I am a bit of a LinkedIn obsessive. I'm on there constantly. And I'm Jimi Wall, JIMIWALL.
Fabulous stuff. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for helping to explain things. And as always, it's been lovely to chat to you. I have to do my standard disclaimer. So obviously all of the information that we've talked about in this podcast and or YouTube video is for guidance only. So if anybody does want any further advice and help, you can get in contact with Jimi directly. And if you want to have a look at our podcast terms, they're available on the TAP HR website. So Jimi, thank you so much. And hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.